Once again, I'm going to let you know this was sponsored by Sync Musica. I'm the founder of Sync Musica, and our mission will be to be allies and facilitators, okay? Allies and facilitators for the record labels, for the producers, for the production companies, and also to represent the songs and the audio for artists, composers, mostly composers and songwriters that want to be able to get sync licensing and music placed.
Where are you going to be placing this song? Is it TV? Is it broadcast? Is it cable? Is it on digital? Is it on a video game? Really important, or is it all of the above? Really important for us to understand where the song is going to be placed. Then we go into the synopsis. Once we know, okay, it's going to be, a movie, then give us an overall understanding of what the movie is going to be about, right? So we get a gist of it. Just, let's get a clearer understanding of how the music is going to be used, which will take us to the next step, which is a description of the scene or a brief. If it's a commercial, what is the brief of what that commercial looks like? Or if it's a movie or a TV series, then give us a description of the scene for a lot of reasons. One, we want to make sure it makes sense, right? But two, more importantly, many of our artists may have some certain standards or policies in terms of how their music is being used. So, for example, if it's a scene where there's drug addiction, violence, something that the artist doesn't feel comfortable with, then it's something, obviously that's why we need to know exactly how the music is going to be used in the scene, or else the artist may not approve it. From there we go to the type of use. So now we understand the scene. How is it being used? Is it going to be in the background, kind of low, you hear the character speaking, or is the character actually singing the song on that scene? And then you can also think about, is it a transition from one scene to another? That's the song we're going to be using for a transition from one side to the other. All of those different uses have different weight because it has a certain importance to that scene. So that is all of these, like I said, all of these points are really important for us to really assess what a fair fee would be for the use of that song.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Darlene, for those basics, and I think you hit it on the mark. I think she exactly got to some very interesting basic points. I have a question actually, which I think is going to affect everybody. So the usage and the placement, so the usage and where the song is used will determine what is paid to the music creators, and also determines what, it's a question, also determines what the independent film producer will have to pay. Who will pay that amount?
Yeah, the production will have to pay for it.
So the production will pay that amount.
Will have to pay, and there are various factors. I mean, Darlene was very thorough, so there's not a whole lot that will expand on on those basics. But I think just to clarify a few points, certainly factors include the duration of the use. Is it over end credits? That's a big one, opening credits. It also depends on the song. If you've got a big iconic song, if you want to license All You Need Is Love, it's not going to cost the same as an emerging artist song. This is a big, huge one. Another thing that we as a publisher would look at is, what recording are you using? Are you using a master recording? Are you re-recording? Is it talent on camera that's recording it? All of that. Now, the songs still have the value, especially if it's a big, iconic song. And once again, then you go to the use, the duration of the use, and all of that. So it's good for those of you who are writers and artists to know what you need to look out for protecting your assets. And then obviously the producers and directors, kind of the information to make sure that you're not using a song that hasn't been properly cleared, which I dealt with that this week. That was interesting. We get an email from one of our songwriters, and hey, by the way, I just heard my song, and here's the clip, and that was another topic of conversation. But when we look at film and TV, media rights usually are going to be all media. We'll often, depending on the fee and the budgets you have, when we ask for budgets, we do want to know the total film budget, not what you've allocated to music. Generally speaking, 10% of the budget should be allocated to music if it's a decent budget for that film. If it's a really, really low budget, that might not even be enough. So then, when I talk to my colleagues over here, we know that all media, like we said, always, and in perpetuity, right? The thing is, the cost for all media in perpetuity might be higher than an indie film budget can absorb, and so then we start looking at, well, what options do we have? We could do film festivals, for example. We can give 2 years of festival rights at a much lower fee, and then you're going to have those options that Darlene referred to, renewal options. We can also do options for commercial releases. We can do step deals. There's a lot of different ways that we can work within budgets, but it's important to have that kind of clear picture of what we're looking at.
Thank you, Amy. I know because we in the past working with a lot of composers and songwriters, I know that the word perpetuity makes them a little nervous. Could you go a little bit more into that as one question? What is perpetuity exactly going to entail? Does that mean they're giving away their song? Because when I said that, then they go, oh my God, I'm not giving away my song. Are you crazy? So forever and ever, perpetuity is one thing. And the other thing is, there's a lot of myths and a lot of mystery around publishing. You know, there's always a lot of mystery about the word publishing. It's like this taboo and this secret thing that they don't quite understand. Could you touch on perpetuity so a lot of the songwriters are not freaking out about giving their songs forever? And then could you also touch upon basically the other question that I asked?
In the United States, we use the term perpetuity. That just basically means forever. And all media, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are usually asking for all media now known hereafter devised these days, right?
Yeah.
That basically is because 20 years ago you could say all media, and nobody understood that all of these digital medias could be devised. And all media existing at that time did not cover digital rights. Now people had to go in and clear films that were, and you can imagine, we just touched on some of the challenges of doing that. So perpetuity is pretty much forever. I asked on territory of origin of people here to see where the productions were coming out of. There are countries in the world where you cannot use the term perpetuity. You say life of copyright because it is the duration of the copyright. You know, it cannot be copyrighted past a certain date. So it pretty much means the same thing as long as the song is there. Now, you asked, or you touched on a point that's key, and you said you're giving it away. First of all, I'm going to recommend you don't ever give it away. There should always be some sort of a fee. There should be some sort of a fee. Beyond that, you are licensing it. You are not giving. You're not assigning copyright. Yes, there are exceptions. It would be very long. We don't have enough time in this panel to go into what would be work for hires for films. That would be more for scores, for original themes created for the film in general. And then, yes, you would be assigning your rights over. But in general, licensing, which is what we're focusing on today, you're not giving away rights. You're licensing it. You're letting them use it for this specific use. That's why we've asked for all the details. Where is it going to be used? How is it going to be used? That means if you say we're going to use 30 seconds in the film where Mary and Juan are dancing together, that's the use you have you have the authority under that license to use. If you decide to now throw that over end credits, you're likely going to get a call from somebody and say, well, that's not covered in the license. We need to go back to the table and negotiate. And that's if somebody's in a friendly mood, because you could also get a letter saying, hey, that's not what we agreed to. We don't want it to be used that way, not end credits. But if all of a sudden that scene changed, as Darlene referenced earlier, now you've got some kind of content that the artist doesn't want to approve, the songwriter doesn't want to approve, well, then it could be a different situation.
Thank you, Amy. And so definitely you need to network and also have a reliable source. Once again, I'm going to reiterate what Amy said. Please be respectful at the end of the panel when you come to speak to these wonderful ladies, which I'm calling the Sync Superwomen of Sony today. I gave them that name. They're superheroes in my book. And make sure that you are respectful and no unsolicited material from any of the creators, please. Okay, thank you. We appreciate that. And this time, I think we're going to go ahead and let Gabby talk about what she does.
Now we can talk about placement, how placement of the music and how we do it, and actually having the opportunity of working with production, TV production, pretty much has given me the fact on how actually it's done, and it's pretty much this process starts from scripts. I mean, since our writers are developing the scripts until post-production. I mean, it's a long process, and actually It's a huge team involved in the whole process, coming from writers, from music supervisors, from directors, producers. So pretty much there is a definition of what is going to be the genre of the project. I mean, what's going to be like the main tone of that music that we would like to have. And then also even we have the development of music, taste for each particular character. So it's very interesting because it comes with the psychology of the character itself in terms of what's the profile, what would be the music taste for that character. So not only we have like a general genre of for the TV show, but we also have like particular profiles, particular characters that they need a particular piece of music. So it's a long process and a lot of approvals in the middle, and it doesn't matter whether it's going to be an emerging artist or it's going to be an iconic song or it's going to be like, I don't know, something unknown. It's just a matter to fit that music to the project. So once that we have, well, actually our content and music department have everything in place, it's when we start negotiating with our ladies here from label or pretty much publishing, always label sometimes, because sometimes we decide in terms of, because of the budget or creative initiatives inside the project, we decide sometimes to develop or produce our own covers. But there are some cases that we require the original master, so we negotiate the master as well.
Thank you so much, Gabby. Appreciate your knowledge. And you say the best for last, or?
So imagine I'm basically representing the network, and the network, just to be clear, it could be anything from ABC, NBC, it could be Amazon, it could be Netflix. And so many times as a network, let's say I'm Amazon, I will engage Gabby's production company to produce an Amazon original or a Netflix original. And as part of that process, we have creative approval over everything that her production company does. So for a lot of you that are producers or directors, think about, when you do have an idea that's picked up to Netflix or to Amazon and it hasn't already been made, if they're picking it up as an original, they're going to want all the creative approvals, and that includes the music. So a lot of times we may say, like I have a project that we're doing for Amazon, and they wanted a series of cameos in each episode of the series, and one of the cameos is actually an emerging artist off the Warner label, and so Amazon will tell us, well, I want this individual, the production company may propose different emerging artists that fit the profile, as Gabby mentioned, and at that time, Amazon through us, through Sony, because we're also a production partner, will decide, well, we this is sort of like our first choice, this is our second choice, and then we begin to negotiate with the label, not just to have that artist integrated as an actual character in the, cameo character in the series, but also to have you perform a song. And then that's when we start having additional conversations with Amy, or I should say, Gabby starts having additional conversations with Amy. So a lot of times there's these deals can take a lot of complexity, because you're not just using the song, but we may say, well, we really want this artist to promote the series. Would they be willing to promote it on social media? Would they be willing to put it on their fan page and drive tune in to Amazon? And then before you know it, it could become a much more bigger endorsement and a much more bigger project than just like a sync license. So it's always something to keep in mind, specifically if you're a performer. It's less important, I think, if you're a composer. But in the end, the composer, a lot of the artists aren't necessarily the only composer on the music, or at all. Mm-hmm. So there's always an opportunity for the composer, because whether we decide to use the master, or in this particular case for this Amazon series, the artist will be performing one of his songs on the show. And then he's also performing 2 songs that our music team and the production company composed. So those 2 songs are original compositions. We don't need to license them from a publisher, but the original song that was his and that he co-wrote with somebody else does need to be cleared and licensed from the publisher. And we're having conversations with the label as well, because the label not just represents the artist, but they have the exclusive right to record that artist. So we can't have that artist appear in the movie, in the series in this particular case, without the label signing off.
I would like for all of you to please give a wonderful round of applause to these amazing women. I call them the 6 superwomen of Sony. Please give them a wonderful round of applause. Because they're taking the time out of the day to be here, and I am totally grateful for your presence and your wonderful knowledge, which was priceless. If you'd like to talk to them briefly, because they are on tight schedules, before they leave, remember to be respectful and no unsolicited material. Just reach out to Sync Musica.